I've always been drawn to the unexplainable, the stories that make you question the line between reality and fiction. That's probably why I never left my hometown, a small coastal town cradled by fog and mystery, with its most enigmatic feature being the abandoned lighthouse perched on the jagged cliffs. It stood there, a silent sentinel, its story as obscure as the misty sea. The lighthouse had been the subject of numerous local legends. Some said it was haunted, others whispered about hidden treasures, but the most unsettling tale was about its last keeper, who supposedly went mad from loneliness, his voice lost to the winds. Despite its eerie reputation, it was this very lighthouse that had captivated me since childhood. I was a young adult with an insatiable curiosity, and spent countless evenings gazing at it from my bedroom window, wondering about the secrets it held. One night, as autumn crept in with its chilling breath, something unusual caught my eye. The lighthouse, long dormant and dark, was blinking. It wasn't just a flicker of faulty wiring, it was deliberate, rhythmic. I blinked hard, thinking my eyes were playing tricks on me, but the light persisted. I grabbed my binoculars and watched in awe as the lighthouse sent pulses of light into the night. Intrigued and a little unnerved, I remembered an old Morse code book my grandfather had left me. Dusting it off, I started to decode the message. My heart pounded as the dots and dashes translated into a clear, haunting message. SOS. A distress call from a place abandoned for decades. It was impossible, yet there it was, flashing before my very eyes. I couldn't shake off the unease that settled in my chest. The lighthouse, a structure I had seen as a symbol of mystery and adventure, was now a source of a cryptic plea for help. I knew then that I had to uncover the truth behind these mysterious signals. Little did I know, this decision would lead me down a path entwined with forgotten tragedies and ghostly revelations. Over the next few days, I threw myself into researching everything I could find about the lighthouse. The local library became my second home, the musty scent of old books, mingling with the sea air that drifted through the open windows. I pored over historical records, newspaper clippings, and maritime logs, piecing together the lighthouse's storied past. The most intriguing account was of its last keeper, a man named Elijah, known for his reclusive nature. The story went that one stormy night, he vanished without a trace, leaving the lighthouse dark and the town buzzing with rumors. Some said he was swept away by the sea, others whispered about a more sinister fate. But no one knew for sure. Every night, I returned to my spot by the window, binoculars in hand, deciphering the new messages from the lighthouse. The dots and dashes varied each night, but all spelled out urgent pleas or cryptic warnings. One message read, "Beware the Ides," another, "They watch from the shadows." The messages were like pieces of a puzzle, each more baffling than the last. The townsfolk started to take notice of the lighthouse's renewed activity. While some dismissed it as a prank or an electrical anomaly, others were less skeptical. I overheard conversations in the local diner, a mix of fear and curiosity in hushed tones. My endeavor, once a solitary quest, was now the center of town gossip. I found an unlikely ally in Mrs. Adler, the elderly librarian, who shared my fascination with the lighthouse. "There's more to that place than just bricks and a beacon," she told me one afternoon, her eyes gleaming with a mix of wisdom and mystery. She provided me with access to restricted archives, where I discovered references to a secret society that was rumored to have held meetings at the lighthouse decades ago. The messages from the lighthouse continued, each night a new set of coordinates. I meticulously noted them down, a growing sense of urgency propelling me. These weren't just random locations, they were leading me somewhere, to something. I could feel it in my bones. It was during one of my nightly vigils that I decoded a message that sent chills down my spine. Find the truth beneath the light. This wasn't just a call for help, it was an invitation, a challenge. I knew then that my journey was just beginning, a journey that would take me into the heart of the lighthouse's mysteries, and perhaps, into its very soul. The more I delved into the lighthouse's history and decoded the nightly messages, the more the line between obsession and investigation blurred. The first location was an old, overgrown cemetery on the outskirts of town. Under the light of my flashlight, I found a withered gravestone marked with the name of the last lighthouse keeper, Elijah. The eerie silence of the night, punctuated only by the distant sound of waves crashing against the cliffs, made the experience surreal. I couldn't shake off the feeling that Elijah's spirit was somewhere nearby, watching me. The next coordinate led me to the town's abandoned shipyard. Among the rusted remnants of boats and tangled fishing nets, I found a locked chest. After some effort, I pried it open to discover a collection of old journals and maritime maps. The journals were written by Elijah, filled with ramblings about the sea, the lighthouse, and something he referred to as the Watchers. As the days passed, the town's skepticism turned to intrigue. While some locals still scoffed at the idea of the lighthouse sending messages, others began to share their own stories and theories. I found myself at the center of these discussions, both celebrated and ridiculed. Mrs. Adler continued to be a valuable ally, providing me with historical context to my findings. "You're stirring up old ghosts," she warned one day, her tone a mix of concern and excitement. The most chilling discovery came from a coordinate leading to an old fisherman's hut by the shoreline. Inside, I found a wall covered in frenzied scribblings and newspaper clippings about missing ships and unexplained maritime accidents. At the center was a crudely drawn symbol, a circle with an eye in the middle, the same symbol I had seen in one of Elijah's journals. Each discovery painted a picture of a man tormented by unseen forces, obsessed with the sea and its secrets. The lighthouse was not just a beacon for ships, it was a beacon for something darker, something Elijah believed was watching from the depths. The final coordinate I decoded was different. It wasn't a location in town, but rather, that night, I lay in bed, my mind racing with anticipation and dread. I was on the verge of uncovering a truth that had eluded the town for decades. But with each passing hour, the weight of what that truth might be grew heavier. I was no longer just chasing shadows, I was about to confront them. The night had arrived, the air thick with anticipation and the salty tang of the sea. Armed with a flashlight, a camera, and a racing heart, I made my way to the lighthouse. The path was familiar, yet everything felt different under the cloak of darkness. The lighthouse loomed ahead, its once dormant light now a beacon calling me forth. As I reached the base of the lighthouse, the air grew colder, the atmosphere charged with an eerie energy. The door, usually locked and immovable, creaked open as if inviting me in. With each step inside, the weight of the lighthouse's history pressed down on me, the walls echoing with the whispers of the past. I ascended the spiral staircase, the beam of my flashlight cutting through the darkness. The higher I climbed, the more intense the feeling of being watched became. It was as if the lighthouse itself was alive, its pulse beating in sync with my own. Reaching the top, I was greeted by the vast expanse of the ocean, a dark abyss under the moonlit sky. The light from the light, with trembling hands, I opened the trapdoor, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. The air grew denser, the silence more profound as I descended. At the bottom, I found myself in a hidden chamber, the walls lined with ancient symbols and faded photographs. The chamber was a shrine to the sea, a testament to Elijah's obsession. Among the artifacts, I found a journal, its pages yellowed with age. It detailed Elijah's descent into madness, his belief in a secret society that worshipped the sea, and their rituals performed in this very chamber. He wrote of the Watchers, entities he believed lived beneath the waves, influencing the fate of those who dared to cross their domain. As I absorbed the gravity of Elijah's revelations, a chill ran down my spine. A shadow moved across the wall, growing larger until it enveloped the room. I turned slowly, my heart pounding in my chest. There, in the flickering light, stood the ghostly figure of Elijah, his eyes hollow, his expression tormented. "Elijah," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "You have uncovered the truth," he spoke, his voice echoing round the chamber. "But with truth comes a burden. The Watchers are real, and they are restless. My warnings were meant to protect, to prevent the past from repeating." I stood frozen, the reality of the supernatural encounter overwhelming my senses. Elijah's spirit moved closer, his ethereal form almost translucent. "Leave this place, forget what you have learned," he warned. "Or risk awakening the wrath of the Watchers." Before I could respond, the room trembled, the walls groaning as if in pain. Elijah's apparition faded into the shadows, leaving me alone in the darkness. I stumbled out of the chamber, the lighthouse shaking as I ascended the stairs. As I emerged into the night, the lighthouse ceased its flashing, returning to its dormant state. I looked back one last time, the weight of Elijah's warning heavy on my soul. The truth I had sought was now mine, but so was the responsibility of keeping it hidden. I made my way back to town, the dawn breaking on the horizon. The lighthouse stood silent behind me, its secret sealed once again. But as I walked away, I couldn't shake off the feeling that this was not the end, but rather the beginning of something far more ominous. The days following my encounter at the lighthouse were a blur of confusion and fear. I kept to myself, haunted by Elijah's warning and the chilling presence of the Watchers. The town slowly returned to its usual rhythm, the mystery of the flashing lighthouse fading into just another strange tale among many. But I couldn't forget. The hidden chamber, Elijah's ghost, the unsettling feeling of being watched, it all lingered in my mind like a persistent fog. I avoided the lighthouse, but its silhouette was always there, at the edge of my vision, a constant reminder of the night that changed everything. Mrs. Adler noticed the change in me. "You've seen something, haven't you?" she asked one day, her eyes searching mine for the truth. I merely nodded, unable to voice the horrors I had witnessed. She didn't press further, but her knowing look told me she understood. In the weeks that followed, I shared my findings with the town, albeit leaving out the more supernatural elements. The hidden chamber became a topic of fascination, and the lighthouse's history was revisited with newfound interest. It was declared a historical site, with plans to turn it into a memorial for those lost at sea. Despite the town's renewed interest in the lighthouse, I felt a deep sense of isolation. The knowledge I carried was a heavy burden, one I could share with no one. I could see the lighthouse from my window, a silent, ominous figure that seemed to watch over me. I tried to resume my normal life, but the experience had changed me. I found solace in solitary walks along the coast, the sound of the waves, a constant reminder of the secrets that lay beneath. The ocean, once a source of wonder, now held a sense of dread. One evening, as I walked along the shoreline, I found myself drawn to the lighthouse. I stood at its base, looking up at the towering structure. It was a clear night, the stars shining brightly above. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of light from the top of the lighthouse, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. I realized then that the lighthouse was more than just a building, it was a gateway to mysteries beyond my understanding. As I turned to leave, a sense of peace settled over me. The lighthouse, with all its secrets, was a reminder of the unknown that surrounds us. And while some mysteries are meant to be uncovered, others are better left in the shadows, watching over us from the depths of the dark. The story of the lighthouse and its ghostly keeper became a part of me, an indelible mark on my soul. Life in the town returned to normal, but the echoes of that night lingered in the air, a silent whisper that only I could hear. I continued my nightly vigils, watching the lighthouse from my window. It remained dark, a dormant giant holding its breath. But the town had changed. People spoke of the lighthouse with a newfound respect, a mixture of awe and fear. It was no longer just an old structure, it had become a symbol of the town's hidden depths. The lighthouse's past was now part of the town's heritage. Tourists came to hear the tales, and locals shared their own stories, each one adding to the legend. But none knew the entire truth, the reality of what lay beneath the surface. I often visited the memorial that had been set up in the hidden chamber beneath the lighthouse. It was a somber place, a tribute to those lost to the sea and the mysteries it held. The walls, once covered in frantic scribblings and symbols, were now clean, but I could still see the faint outlines of Elijah's writings in my mind. As time passed, I found a strange comfort in my secret. It was as if I had a private connection to the lighthouse, a bond forged in the shadows of that fateful night. I would sit by the sea, watching the waves, feeling the presence of something ancient and unknowable just beyond my reach. But the story doesn't end there. One night, as I gazed out at the lighthouse, something miraculous happened. The light flickered to life, not in the frantic sows of before, but in a slow, steady pulse. It was as if the lighthouse was breathing, a gentle rhythm that matched the ebb and flow of the sea. I decoded the message, my hands trembling with anticipation. It was a simple phrase, yet it held a world of meaning. Guardian of the deep. In that moment, I understood. The lighthouse wasn't just a beacon for ships, it was a guardian, watching over the secrets of the sea, protecting us from the unknown. The light ceased as suddenly as it had appeared, and the lighthouse returned to a silent vigil. But now, I saw it in a different light. It was a keeper of stories, a sentinel of the past, and a guardian of the deep mysteries that lay beneath the waves. The lighthouse continues to stand tall on the cliffs, a reminder of the night when the veil between our world and the unknown was lifted. And as for me, I remain its faithful watcher, a guardian of its secrets, always listening for the whispers in the dark, always watching the sea.